One of Louisville's finest, my man, Paul Logsdon. How's it going, Paul?
Good, man. Carlos, I appreciate you for having me.
My pleasure, man. That Louisville 44 jersey is looking awfully crisp for those of you guys that are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, it's pretty white, isn't it? Pretty white.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the final gift that I got after I graduated, and yeah, very sentimental, man.
I want to hear more about that. I know that you played with Lamar Jackson, who's one of my favorite athletes of all time, being here about 10 minutes away from the Ravens Stadium. So that's absolutely huge. My roommate was home. I'd go bust in and get his Lamar signed ball. But man, you've been making a lot of moves on social media, which prompted this interview specifically. Even though we met probably about a year and a half ago over Zoom, I was like, this guy's the man. Happy to help him grow. Had aspirations of being a wholesaler. He saw a video, I believe, which I'll let you expand on, of potentially me and Bo Hollis, Louisville's finest, and was like, man, I want to learn about InvestorFuse. I want to learn about wholesaling. I think you were just getting into it, but you got a consistent business going, man. And you're also helping out beginning wholesalers, which is amazing to see and hear. Just doing a lot of good on the world. So I'm happy and honored that you come on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Carlos, man. Yeah, it's crazy you say that because that is how I first found you. Through the podcast on YouTube when I was just stuck in YouTube university mode, and to see it come full circle is incredible, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Why don't you give us a snapshot of what your business looks like, how you're making money, team structure, everything like that. And we've already alluded that you're in Louisville. You can see the Louisville Cardinal jersey back there. I love that framed up. But yeah, give us a snapshot before we start diving into more specifics and chronologically your journey a little bit.
Yeah, so my name's Paul Logsdon. I'm 26 years old from Louisville, Kentucky, and been wholesaling, or I first learned about wholesaling in January of 2020. So that makes it going on 2 years now. I went full time in June of 2020, so pretty much during the middle of COVID pandemic.
Crazy.
And now I'm to the point where we're consistently doing deals anywhere from, I'd say we average about 3 deals a month right now, anywhere from 25 to 40K every single month. So we've really dialed in our marketing channels. So we know how to generate leads and convert them on a regular basis. But now I'm to the point where I want to grow. I want to grow and build a team that can sustain buying more houses. So right now, what the business looks like and the team and whatnot is, I'm still very much involved in the day-to-day acquisitions, but we pretty much have the marketing dialed in. So we have 3 cold callers and we have 1 full-time texter. And then just this week on Monday, we onboarded a lead manager / appointment setter to work out of the CRM, really dial in on the follow-up calls, follow up on offers, follow up on people who never answer their phone, because that can be one of the biggest struggles is, hey, you cold called somebody, you pre-qualified them with your virtual assistant, seems like a great lead, but then you never talk to them again because they just never answer the phone. And those tend to be some of the best deals. So that's what I'm working on automating right now is really getting that follow-up process dialed in, and then having it to where my lead manager can set appointments for me, acquisitions, to go out and close the deal. And then eventually, once we get that implemented and optimize that process, we will replace myself as acquisitions, and then talk about bringing on like a transaction coordinator and a dispositions rep. So I'm really trying to build out a full-scale wholesale business, and right now we're pretty much right in the middle of doing that.
Love it. What's the best place for other investors in the Louisville area to reach out to you? Because I know Paul too, he hasn't mentioned yet, but he's at a place now. Crazy that I think we must have talked January 2020, right before COVID started, and you went full-time June 2020. So you're just around over a year mark of doing this full time. Congrats, and hats off to you for having consistent revenue, saying that you having the marketing ironed out within a year. That is a very impressive feat that you're doing that. But Paul is also partnering with other investors. So if you happen to be listening to this and you're just starting off wholesaling or need help moving deals, maybe you're a virtual wholesaler and have a lead that came up in Kentucky that Paul may be able to help you move. What's the best place to reach out to you that they may be able to pull that up while they're listening to this interview?
Yeah, definitely. Add me on Facebook, Paul Logsdon, but probably the best place to send me a message is on Instagram. And my Instagram username is persistent_Paul. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, but probably Instagram for sure.
Perfect. And I'll have that in the show notes by the time that we have this chopped up. So just check out the show notes below. We can go a few different ways here. I guess we can talk a little bit about, I guess we can do a quick recap of how you got into wholesaling. And just because I'm a sports nut and we've had conversations before to the man, we've talked about, being a D1 college football player, college athlete. Would love to hear just kind of how you got started in real estate and what the college football experience was like for you and moving out of that.
Yeah. So college football experience was amazing. For me, I was a walk-on. So I didn't, get a scholarship. I wasn't one of the golden, kids. I wasn't the fastest, the biggest, the, most athletic. But I was a really, really hard worker. And I believe that nobody outworked me. You might be stronger, but you're not going to outwork me. So I tried out for the football team and made the team and played for 2 years with Lamar Jackson. And it was just an overall great experience to play at such a high level with high level athletes. But after that, graduated with a degree in history. And believe it or not, the plan was to go back and get my master's degree in education. Because, how college is. It's like they advised me to get the history degree because the education classes conflicted with the football schedule. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I just said, okay, yeah, that's what I'll do. So here I am, graduated college with a history degree and decided that I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to be a high school principal. So I got into a few different jobs, like different management positions. I was getting paid a salary, they were good jobs, but I found out that I didn't like being paid on a salary because I could work really hard, work harder than anybody else and still get paid the same amount as the guy who, wasn't working as hard. So that's when I started looking really hard at sales and getting paid based on my performance. So then I got my first sales job, which was a door-to-door sales job, probably like the most brutal kind of sales. Did that for a year and, moved out to Dallas for that company as well. And pretty much the business went under because the whole idea of that organization was to build a team and, rise in the ranks and make overrides on employees. But things didn't work out in Dallas. So I ended up moving back home, got another sales job. And that was right around January 2020 when I found out about wholesaling. And let me back up a little bit. I'd been studying real estate as a whole, fix and flip, buy and holds, apartment complexes, like different niches in real estate. I've been studying it through resources like Bigger Pockets, primarily the Bigger Pockets podcast. And then one night in January, I was watching their podcast on YouTube, and I believe it was a Max Maxwell video that popped up, and I found out about wholesaling and went down that rabbit hole. And I was like, wow, it's really amazing what people are able to do within the wholesale space without any experience, without any money, without any credit, or without all the things that would stop you from getting into traditional real estate, you know? So after that, I became obsessed with consuming content. Primarily, I would say Wholesaling Inc.'s podcast. And what I did there was went back to episode number 1, listened to all of their podcasts. And I think what that did for me, more so than telling me like what action to take, because there's a lot of different people taking a lot of different action that they've interviewed. But what it did for me more than anything was gave me the faith and the belief that I could do wholesaling. You know, like the people that were being interviewed on the podcast were just regular people. I saw there was nothing special about them. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're special people, but nothing inherently different between them and myself. And that was kind of the mindset that I had when I was listening to these podcasts. And it really like indoctrinated myself and gave me the belief that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. So after that, I just started taking action, and I really didn't know what action to take. I started out handwriting letters and dropping them off on people's doorstep, kind of like a driving for dollars model. And I probably did like hundreds, maybe even 1,000 of those. And that's how I got my first deal. Somebody called me and said they wanted to sell their house. And that's what we did. We bought their house.
Mm-hmm. And I think everybody does that in this industry, probably most things and most feats or ventures in life, where whether they realize it or not, they have to reach a certain level of belief that they can do it. And they have to see other people just to get kind of that concept of belief or proof of concept that it can be something done. One thing Paul left out that I'll mention, he's being very humble as far as being a hard worker and persistent. Paul, as his social media handle is. He was working, I believe you were working a job either full-time or part-time and driving around, dropping off notes on people's doors just in any free time that he had. So like, it is like wild things depending on your network of friends or whatever, kind of like, the people that you talk to, like some people will say, oh man, that's crazy to do that. Or some people, which has been a big part for you too, accountability of other investors, as we talked before we went on live or went on air here. Some people will be like, oh man, that's awesome. Keep doing it. How many have you done? Do another 1,000. So a lot of that stuff led to first success. And most real estate podcasts that you guys are listening to, guys, Bigger Pockets, whatever, it's interesting to first uncover like how they did their first deal and how they got started. And that gives a nice context and frame through the rest of the conversation here about the interviewee. So that's definitely cool. And I know that the hard work is just getting started on your end, man. So it's inspiring and cool to hear your story.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. I was working a full-time job when I first learned about wholesaling, and you're right. Any free time I got, I would hand out those letters. That's the only thing I knew how to do. And I don't know, I found some guy on YouTube who said, yeah, write a letter on yellow piece of paper in red ink. And that's what I did. So I would actually, the night before, every night I would sit down and I would have a fresh pad of 50 pieces of paper. And I'll go ahead and fill out the templates the night before. That way, when I was out and I saw a house that looked like it had a lot of potential, I would just get out, leave my letter there. And it worked, man. It worked for me.
So Paul, for lead gen wise, you're mainly running like a telecommunications focused cold calling and texting. I'd love to hear, since you went full-time June 2020 to now we're recording this September, kind of like what's the best insight or advice strategy, just like within your own shop there in Louisville, that's been successful for you to getting 25 to 40K and just like consistently getting transactions in your pipeline and generating quality leads and quality conversations?
Yeah. So, we're real heavy on cold calling. Between the time that I hired my first virtual assistant, probably after my second or third deal, we haven't taken the day off of cold calling. besides like Saturday and Sunday,
Oh, right, yeah.
I've never gone for a period of weeks or month without having somebody cold calling.
Mhm.
And I think having that momentum has really been what's pushed me or propelled me to have a consistent business. A lot of people will stop marketing and then they'll be confused whenever the deals stop coming in. So the way I think about it is what we do now, the leads we generate right now, those are probably going to take 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer before they actually convert.
Mhm.
And every now and then, you'll have your easy deal who the seller just wants to sell right now just because you called. But for anybody starting out, maybe they don't have a virtual assistant and you're still cold calling yourself or you're on the phones yourself every day, you actually have an edge over everybody else. You know your market, you speak the language of your people in your market. And I think as long as you're the kind of person that is actually going to do what you say you're going to do, you're going to win. For example, I come across sellers all the time who've encountered lazy wholesalers. When I say lazy wholesalers, these are people who said, maybe they said, call me back in a week, or make me an offer, or come see the house and make me an offer. But they never get called back. They never get the offer. They never get followed up with. And I think that's for two reasons. One, maybe there's lazy wholesalers, or maybe there's just so much opportunity out there that there's enough for everybody to go around. So that's what I believe. That's the way I look at it, is you have an edge because you speak the language of the people. You're not some Filipino. You don't have an accent. As long as you can get in there and be a guy who's going to do what you say you're going to do, I think you'll win. It's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Speak a little bit to some of the challenges that you're facing right now, which you already have solutions in place with hires and such, but just kind of the threshold where you're kind of losing out on time of doing your own follow-up calls when you're going to face-to-face or actually going on physical appointments, which also, credit to you, you started full-time June 2020, right in the middle of a global pandemic that comes around once every 100 years. So no easy feat in that facet as well. But speak a little bit to that pain point, just kind of like what you've been going through, what you've been thinking. And like I said, you already mentioned that you have somebody onboarding to help out with some of the follow-up in general and some of the cold mold stuff or cold mold leads in your database.
Yeah. So some of the biggest struggles that I'm having right now, and I think a lot of people will face this eventually, is, we've consistently been generating leads. All of a sudden, we've gotten to this point where there's too many leads for me to consistently follow up with on a daily basis. And basically, long story short, leads are falling through the cracks because I'm very appointment heavy. So whenever I'm on appointments, I can't be making follow-up calls. And whenever I'm on follow-up calls, I can't be on appointments. And we need both to close deals, right? We need to go on appointments to close deals. We need to do follow-ups and set appointments to close deals. And then once you balance that, you try balancing that aspect of your business with transaction coordination and dispositions, which, doesn't sound like a heavy workload, but when you're actually in the business and you're doing transaction coordination, you're trying to like save deals from falling apart, it can be a lot. So that's been my biggest struggle. Pretty much, I broke my business, and I think that's crucial to grow. You have to break something, fix it, make it stronger, so then you can continue to grow. So what we're doing to fix it is hiring a lead manager / appointment setter. Matter of fact, they're already hired. We just onboarded them on Monday. So really getting them trained up to, properly follow up on time with sellers, so leads aren't falling through the cracks. And also setting appointments for acquisitions, which is me right now to go out in the field and close deals, you know.
Love it. Do they have any responsibility, as a quick side question, do they have any responsibility for comping properties, or does that go all to you in acquisitions?
Yeah, so that's primarily going to land on acquisitions. So we are training them. The lead manager, he's based out of Mexico. So that's where we source this virtual assistant from. Right now, we're training him on the basics, but I don't really anticipate training him on running comps or making offers. But I am training. I want him to be able to give offer ranges. You know, that way that's how we're going to help qualify them for an appointment. Mm-hmm. Basically say, well, we would probably have to be between, you know, here and here. And if that's just not even feasible, then it's really, you know, not worth an appointment. So that's kind of how we're filtering out some of the people who maybe say they want to sell, but they're not motivated, you know.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. For you, starting off a little over a year ago, how have you been able to, I guess, leverage, not to sound in a negative way at all, because it's super positive, but how have you been able to leverage just connecting and collaborating with other investors in Louisville? Because before we started recording, we are talking about a bunch of good people down there. But how has that helped you, and how do you think that's going to help you scale like past the 25 to 40K range, and, you know, just bring on new hires and everything like that, everything that comes with that?
Yeah. So me, I'm like a sponge. You know, whenever my first maybe 3 deals, I joint ventured with a more experienced wholesaler, because I didn't know what to do. I was so green. I still don't know anything. You know, that's kind of the mentality that I have, is I know nothing. I'm constantly learning. But having that more experienced wholesaler take me under their wing and close a deal a few times together really helped me out a whole lot, especially because it was during COVID-19. Yeah. There was no meetups. You know, all the meetups were canceled. So having that, you know, network to rely on in the beginning was especially crucial. You know, hey, is this a deal or is this not a deal? What do we do whenever there's a tenant living in there and they're not paying rent, kind of deal? You know, these problems that are going to pop up with wholesaling, it's nice to have someone who's been through that to kind of guide you through it. Also, going through different meetups now that we have them again, you know, going to these meetups and meeting people who are already doing what you want to do, or who are where you want to be, has been crucial. You know, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Mm-hmm. So that's been something that I've really been, you know, trying to be intentional with, is the people that I surround myself with, and who I give my time to, because I know no matter who it is, they're going to have an influence on me some way or another. And that's why I like to surround myself with guys like Bo Hollis, you know, who's crushing it in the wholesale game right now.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I could ask you to expand that to social media too, because I see that you're involved in a lot of different groups and consistently posting, consistently networking with people. Speak to that a little bit, because I know that that's been a part of your success. Now you're even helping out other people as well, like people that are just starting off wholesaling or more so beginning investors.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Carlos. So I'm a part of a community called Superhuman Wholesalers. And whenever I first started wholesaling, I joined this community. And, you know, it's a Facebook group, by the way, for anyone listening. You can go join Superhuman Wholesalers. It's probably the one that has like 13 or 14,000 members in it. But there's also a private group that's kind of behind the scenes called the Accountability Group. And basically a bunch of other investors, a bunch of other wholesalers specifically, ranging from people doing, you know, multiple 6 figures per year and people who hadn't even done their first deal yet. We would all meet every single Sunday and talk about our goals and just check in, hold each other accountable for if we were on track to hit those goals. And really what we are measuring is what we call IPAs, which stands for income producing activity. And because that's really when you're a startup company, especially a solo wholesaler, that's what's really going to drive the needle forward is that IPA activity. So your income producing activity would be something like cold calling, all of your marketing, text, RVM, send out direct mail, anything that involves talking to sellers, making offers, going on appointments, all of that qualifies as income producing activity. Something that's not an income producing activity, just for reference, would be like building a website, creating your LLC, designing a logo, pulling lists, all that stuff is non-IPA activity. So really having a community of people that will back you up and hold you accountable really helps me out more than anything. There's something really powerful about joining a community, because as a wholesaler and as an entrepreneur, a lot of people aren't going to understand what you're going through, the decisions you have to make, and the problems that you're facing. A lot of people they won't understand because they're never going to have to experience it for themselves. So if you can surround yourself with people who are in a similar situation, they're going to lift you up to heights that you can't even imagine.
Love it, man. Where are some of those heights you're looking to go here in the next year or two with the business, life, personal, anything that's on the mind right now?
Yeah. So right now I want to get my business to a point where we're consistently generating $100,000 every single month. So that's the goal. And I'm actually trying to accomplish that over the next 100 days. So the deadline that I've set for myself is November the 25th.
Amazing.
So that's the goal. And it's not to make $100,000 by November 25th. It's to have the infrastructure, to have the business set up that can consistently make $100,000 every single month. So that's where I want to take my wholesale business. And eventually I do want to get into owning property and really building true wealth that way.
Love it, man. Well, this has been a cool interview thus far, man. Just hearing like your story and just someone that's pretty much gone from like 0 to 100 of like, you either have a consistent wholesale business or you don't. So you really have gone 0 to 100 in a little, I don't know when you reach that point exactly, but I mean, you're just a baby in the game. As far as just going full time a little over a year ago. Something on the software side or the app side that you got into as well. Do you want to share about that? The cash buyer scraping tool, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm building out something right now, and we just launched beta mode. So we did a kind of a test run, and we're ironing out some kinks there. But it's called the Buyer's List Builder, and what it is, it's really an affordable and convenient way to build your buyer's list. Because whenever I first started, I didn't have any buyers. And because I didn't have any buyers, I had to joint venture with other wholesalers, which, do not get me wrong, that was very strategic. I still recommend everyone do that just for the sole aspect of what you can learn from other people who are crushing it. But it gets to a point where after you do a few deals, you start getting a little bit greedy, you could say. But also from a business standpoint, you start thinking, what's the fastest and most easiest way I can double my revenue in my company right now? And that would be just simply by selling your own deals. Or how many wholesalers come across a deal, they get a property under contract and they can't sell it, even if they joint venture with somebody. So I really started to dial in on building my cash buyers list. And I've probably tried all the different cash buyer methods, ways to build your cash buyers list. Pooling lists, skip tracing them, cold calling them, texting them, which works great, right? Sending postcards, fake bandit signs, fake Craigslist posts, call-in realtors, buy-in lists, trading lists with other wholesalers. I've tried it all. One of the things that I found that was most convenient and most affordable was going in different Facebook groups, like local real estate investor Facebook groups. And I noticed that a lot of wholesalers would post their deals, or they would make a post, say, hey, I'm trying to build my buyers list, drop your email below. And a lot of cash buyers would drop their email. Maybe sometimes they drop their phone number. So I started going in these Facebook groups and copying and pasting all of that into a spreadsheet, which is a phenomenal way for anybody to build their buyers list. Highly recommend it. The only problem is very time consuming, very tedious. You would copy and paste the email, copy and paste the name. And then after you do that, you go through all these posts. Then you realize you copy and pasted the same cash buyer 10 times. And it just, I'm not a very techie guy by any means. I'm very visionary type of guy. So the computer and the spreadsheet, it's not my thing, especially when I know that I can make real money by talking to sellers. That's what I specialize in. So I created a tool that would actually go in these Facebook groups, and you could just find one of these posts that has a bunch of emails and phone numbers, click a button, and it would automatically expand all the comments, copy and paste them into a spreadsheet, and remove all the duplicates. And that's what the buyers list builder is. And I want it to be like a game changer for anyone who's trying to build their buyers list. You could go, if I wanted to open up a new market and I didn't have any buyers, I could literally go into Facebook and build a list of 500 cash buyers in just short of an hour. It would take me less than an hour.
I love it, man. Just automating and, like a cost effective, there's definitely way more cost effective. It's all depending on where you're at in the game. But I mean, this is a tactic that you could even have a VA doing no matter what level you're at. So I love that. And I know it's coming from a genuine, hey, this is what I'm using and this is what's helped me. And I know that you're helping a lot of people now that you got a super consistent business going. So Paul, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a great conversation, great story that you got. And his information is in the show notes to stay in touch with Paul or follow his journey as well. But man, I guess you get the name Persistent Paul just from outworking everybody, never taking a day off cold calling Monday to Friday, and just sticking with this business. Listen to every Wholesaling Inc. podcast, 0 to whatever number it was, becoming obsessed with the business and just networking, holding yourself accountable in the IPA meetings, the making sure you're doing income producing activities. So hats off to you, man. And if you were a stock to invest in, I would definitely put a good bit of money into that, because I know that you're going to continue to scale and grow and be successful, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And any last words, Paul, for the audience? I'll definitely hit you up, like I said, when this gets released on blog and podcast and social media and everything.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Carlos. Once again, thanks for having me. It's been legendary for it to all come full circle. I hope that we provide a lot of value for your audience. And if I could just leave everybody with one thing, it would have to be kind of like my mantra for life, which is PTR, which stands for persistence through resistance. I'm a big believer in persistence. Partially because Napoleon Hill writes a full chapter on it in Think and Grow Rich. I highly recommend that book to everybody. But also because I believe that if you want something bad enough and you continue to take action and you overcome obstacles, persistence means that you never quit. So you face the adversity and you actually embrace it, which, adversity is what I would call resistance, any kind of resistance in life. If you can get through that resistance, then on the other side is, what you truly want, success and the best version of yourself. So I would just encourage everybody to have that in the back of their mind, persistence through resistance.
Love it, man. PTR. Guys, have a great rest of the day wherever you're hearing this. I know this has been an awesome interview for me. So enjoy it. Get some income producing activities rocking and rolling, and have a great rest of the day.